On this week's Vaticano, Pope Francis celebrates Palm Sunday and begins Holy Week in Rome, the most liturgically rich season of the year. Homeless in Rome are invited to visit the Sistine Chapel. The Japanese bishops come to the Vatican for their Ad-Limina visit. Passion relics recall Christ's death and resurrection, and a German school performs St. Matthew's Passion. All that, plus a little tour of the culinary highlights of this Easter season in Italy. Now on Vaticano. On a beautiful Palm Sunday morning, Pope Francis celebrated Holy Mass in a packed St. Peter's Square. The Pope processed with bishops and clergy holding traditional olive branches and skillfully bound palm leaves, commemorating Jesus' triumphal entrance into Jerusalem. Pope Francis spoke of Christ's humility and his humiliation.
Al centro di questa celebrazione,
at the heart of this celebration, which seems so festive, are the words we heard in the hymn of the letter to the Philippians. He humbled himself. Jesus' humiliation. These words show us God's way, and consequently, that which must be the way of Christians. It is humility, a way which constantly amazes and disturbs us. We will never get accustomed to a humble God. We think, too, of the humiliation endured by all those who, for their lives of fidelity to the gospel, encounter discrimination and pay a personal price. We think, too, of our brothers and sisters who are persecuted because they are Christians, the martyrs of our own time, and there are many. They refuse to deny Jesus, and they endure insult and injury with dignity. They follow him on his way.
Lo seguono sulla sua via.
This feast marked the beginning of Holy Week, culminating in the sacred Triduum of Christ's passion, death, and his resurrection, celebrated at Easter. An international prayer vigil for life was held in Rome's largest Marian church of St. Mary Major on the eve of the Feast of the Annunciation. The event, prepared by the Vatican, was divided into 3 stages, a moment of reflection on some of the artistic elements of the basilica related to life, a rosary, and a mass. Related to this topic, the Pontifical Council for the Pastoral Care of Health Workers organized a day of study on St. John Paul II's encyclical, Evangelium Vitae. They're marking the 20th year of publication, and they say that defense of life in every stage is fundamental, especially for the world of medicine.
The encyclical Evangelium Vitae, which is a very complete, very structured, and even long study, is a true aid for health professionals in having the inviolable value of human life and a light for their everyday action. It means discovering that every human life has a value in itself, and this is fundamental. Therefore, it is not something which can be subjected to a temporary manipulation, but it needs to be discovered that life has a value, and this is something that the medicine needs to be clear about. The encyclical stimulates and advises about these topics and gives a philosophical and anthropological reasoning for the truth that it announces.
Monsignor Simón Vázquez emphasized that life is a gift and not a right to manipulate or instrumentalize.
Obviously, new technological advances offer many possibilities, and every day the possibilities grow. But oftentimes life is instrumentalized. Instead of becoming an end, life often becomes a means for my satisfaction, my loneliness. That could be a good and honest desire, but if it remains a subjective desire, then it is just perceived to be an achievement to be reached and not a gift that is received.
He emphasized further that only true love, will protect life.
Last week, the bishops of Japan met Pope Francis for their Ad-Limina visit. The Archbishop of Tokyo was happy with the encounter.
It was the fourth time for me to be received by the Pope, and this time it was very special. I felt very relaxed, and so the atmosphere was very good.
Pope Francis recalled the anniversary of the hidden Christians in March, a group of witnesses who kept their faith alive secretly, without priests or sacraments, for over 200 years in Japan.
At the beginning, Christianity was quite prosperous, but it was forbidden because the ruler felt something dangerous for them. So, and then missionaries, priests were all killed or driven, and then no more priests, and so people were forced to give their faith up. So some of them kept their faith, but some of them said, I am no more Christian. But they secretly they kept their faith and transmitted their faith to next generations. It was a miraculous thing.
Japan today struggles from a disintegration of family and suicide, amounting to an average of 20,000 deaths each year.
The difficulty to transcend our faith, our society is very much secularized. Our family is almost dissolved, and so we don't have much time to pray together and to take a meal together. Our concern is mostly on the economic profits, so no good. It's very difficult. We lost spiritual treasure. We are discussing our common tasks. One of them is how do you say suicide. In our country and Korea, many people are committing suicides. So we are very much worried.
There are 500,000 Catholics in Japan, which amounts to 0.05% of the population.
Welcome back. This is Vaticano. Hoping to awaken the world's conscience on Iraq, a pontifical delegation traveled to Erbil and Dohuk to foster local communion and shed light on the dramatic plight of Christians in the country. With ISIS forces beginning a major offensive in June 2014, more than 2.5 million refugees, many of them Christian, fled from Mosul and the Nineveh plain here to Erbil and other cities in the Kurdish area, finding protection in Peshmerga-controlled lands. The Bishop of Dohuk hopes that the new generation will live more peacefully together, if educated about the different religions.
They are together like brother and sister. With this new generation, you can create to join each other, to know each other, but not to put in the basic the religion to teach for the Christian and others to heed each other. To know what is Islam, to know what is Christianity, you have to also look who they are live around you and with you, to accept each other. Everybody is free.
Many live in a refugee camp with help from Caritas.
Their help have made a difference in the life of the refugees, of the Christian refugees and other refugees here. Yes, it's a very difficult moment. It's a very difficult time. The longer it's going to stay, people would be really feel desperate to go back home, but sometimes maybe fear of losing everything. So here we need the prayers of our brothers and sisters, their support, and also their work with the politicians and with the media, that our story should not be neglected.
Despite the bad living situation, the Christians were preparing themselves for the celebration of Christ's resurrection.
I wish you all a blessed Easter, and we do believe in the power of resurrection, and God is going to make something a victorious event after all of these evilness that we've experienced.
Last week, 150 homeless persons received a special ticket for the Vatican museums, given by the Office for Papal Charities. Before heading into the museums, the homeless guests passed through the Vatican city-state and by the Santa Marta guest house, where Pope Francis lives. They continued on into the museums in the Sistine Chapel, where they received an explanation of Michelangelo's infamous frescoes and prayed together. They were accompanied by Mother Teresa's Little Sisters of the Poor. In addition to food, umbrellas, sleeping bags, showers, and haircuts, the Vatican has therefore offered Rome's homeless the gift of beauty.
In Rome, tools employed in the crucifixion of Christ are able to still be seen today. As the Church remembers Jesus' final moments on earth, the faithful can venerate the relics of his passion and death. It was Saint Helena, the Emperor Constantine's mother, who brought many of these passion relics from Jerusalem to Rome. Like the Holy Stairs, those leading up to the Praetorium, on which Christ was judged by Pontius Pilate. Today the stairs are here in Rome's city center, covered by a layer of wood. Faithful climb them on their knees in prayer. Another church, Rome's Basilica of Santa Croce in Gerusalemme, is home to parts of the true cross, a piece of the crown of thorns, and the famous sign that hung on the cross, presenting Christ as King of the Jews. St. Praxedes, yet another church in Rome, holds what tradition claims to be the column of Christ's scourging.
In the wake of the Sixth Crusade, in the early years of the 13th century, Cardinal Giovanni Colonna, who was a member of family, very important, he was a cardinal and appointed by Pope Innocent III, man from a very powerful and important family. And when he returned to Rome in the year 1223, some sources say 1228, he brought with him this column, which he claimed to be a piece of the column against which Christ was scourged, as recounted in the Gospels.
Some sources dispute the authenticity of this specific piece of memory.
The best we can say is that it seems highly unlikely that it is authentic, because the building, the Gospels don't say exactly where the flagellation of Christ took place. The building would have been almost certainly a Roman structure, probably the Praetorium itself that is referred to as the place where Pontius Pilate lives and works.
But questionable authenticity does not diminish the faith of the people.
I think it is still very much the case that one can venerate these objects, even where their authenticity has been called into question. First of all, one mustn't think of this as a conscious fraud on the part of Cardinal Colonna, or the people who received it as a relic of the flagellation. But also in terms of the way we venerate these things, the Western tradition uses these things basically the way the Byzantine tradition uses icons in venerating the object. You aren't venerating the object for its own sake necessarily, but rather as an expression of and a sort of realized presence of the thing or the event that you are on, or I should say the person or the thing that you are. Sorry, let me say it. The person or the event that it represents. And I think the best expression of this is actually in our liturgical tradition, that in the Western Rite, our tradition is that during the liturgy, during the Mass, we incense the relics and not the images. And for the Byzantines, it's the other way around. They incense the images, icons, and not the relics. And in that sense, it is the living presence, the realized presence of, in this case, the Passion of Christ, the flagellation as one aspect of that passion, among us, so that even if it isn't authentic, we are still honoring the Passion of Christ by venerating it as such. And in that sense, I say, yes, it absolutely does remain a perfectly valid part of our tradition.
Solemnity characterizes the Lenten period, but every Catholic will join the Universal Church in its joy during Easter.
A new exhibition sponsored by the Vatican Museums presents sculptures and precious metals from the 14th to the 18th century.
The
reason this exhibit is here is to show to the vast public the richness of the treasures that are contained and hidden within our churches.
The hidden sculptures have only ever been revealed to the public during special occasions.
Most of these objects, particularly the busts, which represent patron saints, were only presented during festivals, when they were the protagonists of processions. However, after that day, they were returned to their sacristy and were not seen until the next year.
The artwork consists of heads and busts used as reliquaries, crosses, sacred vessels, and ornaments. The particular pieces were chosen because they embody the places from which they come.
We selected the pieces that were most interesting and that represented the totality of the region. These works have been preserved in each part of Lazio.
Sono capolavori che si trovano nelle chiese della
They are great masterpieces that are found in the churches of the Roman countryside in small towns that are 50, 80 kilometers away from Rome, places that very few know of. We present here an unheard of exhibition, a beautiful part of the artistic Italian culture. Everyone knows the great masterpieces of Italian art, but these masterpieces of sacred gold nobody knows about. So we wanted to show what the Church has given to its people.
E noi abbiamo voluto far vedere che cosa la Chiesa ha regalato al suo popolo.
The concealed art pieces are being shown during a relevant time that corresponds to their religious significance.
È una mostra che si colloca.
This is an exhibit that is being presented during a historic and important time. We are almost at the eve of the Jubilee, and this exhibit tells the stories of saints and of the Church in Lazio, Italy, the territory around Rome. These pieces perfectly illustrate the religious spirit of the Jubilee that Pope Bergoglio proclaimed a few days ago.
Giubileo che Papa Bergoglio ha proclamato pochi giorni fa.
The last day to see the precious sculptures exhibit is June 30th, so if you're in Rome for the summer, be sure to catch it.
Welcome back. You are watching Vaticano. 250 Germans came to Rome on a mission. This is the final rehearsal of a German high school choir, preparing themselves for a special performance in Rome.
Die Matthäus-Passion von Johann Sebastian Bach.
The Passion of St. Matthew by Johann Sebastian Bach. A colossal piece with 2 choirs, a children's choir, and 2 orchestras. Such a work can only be sung with backup. That means that the parents formed a choir as well to accompany then the children's choir, and then 2 orchestras which are enhanced with alumni of the school who followed us.
Die aus alter Verbundenheit zur Schule immer noch mitfahren.
But such a monumental performance needs preparation.
Many months, always twice a week in the afternoon, always with a lot of enthusiasm. I hope it will pay off. I was really surprised. You always think classical music is boring, but that was not the case at all. We were surprised how much fun it was and that we really became a group with a good dynamic. That is very important, especially for a piece like this.
The group comes from a German high school in the city of Essen, which focuses on the musical education of the students. Students can obtain a special high school diploma in music. This particular performance has become a tradition in the Eternal City.
Wir sind seit 1995 alle 5 Jahre.
Since 1995, we have come to Rome every 5 years, and have a concert of the Passion of St. Matthew. The idea was born in 1995, well, actually 2 years earlier, since a musical piece like this needs preparation, and was born by a Monsignor who worked for the Papal Press Office and a former alumni of our school, Monsignor Mattes, who has passed already.
Monsignore Mattes ist mittlerweile verstorben.
It's phenomenal, this pulsing city. Everywhere there is life. No matter in which small street you look, there's always lots of people out and about, and people are very helpful here. It's great.
Ist schon toll.
We traditionally always come here during Lent, since in fact the Passion should only be performed during Lent. It fits this time and also this place.
In diesen Ort und in diese Zeit.
Easter in Rome is a very special time of year. Besides the week-long celebration from the heart of the Universal Church, the Vatican, families will gather around the table and celebrate with a lavish feast with traditional dishes such as lamb, fish, vegetables, pasta, and a spread of dessert. This includes restaurants in and around Rome who will be preparing the classic Easter feast on a grand scale for Romans who prefer to be served while enjoying the outdoors. This includes Ghetto, located in the heart of the Jewish ghetto near the ancient Portico de Ottavia. Since 1923, this family-owned restaurant is the center of classic Roman Jewish cuisine. Their signature dish includes the artichokes served in a variety of ways, starting with carciofi alla Judea, deep-fried artichokes, or carciofi alla Romana. The process of preparing each artichoke is a skill you'll savor when served. Other veggies include stuffed zucchini flowers with mozzarella cheese and anchovies that hit the spot as a starter plate, or filetti de bacalà, deep-fried cod fillets, or maybe something a little lighter such as puntarelle, a classic Roman salad with a garlic and anchovy dressing. However, the main course and the one most will be enjoying on Easter Sunday is abbacchio, a suckling lamb seasoned with fresh rosemary. The meat is roasted until it's so tender it melts in your mouth. Of course, for those a little less traditional, the traditional dishes such as spaghetti alla carbonara, matriciana, cacio e pepe, or coda alla vaccinata are great all year long. Happy Easter from Rome.
Jesus resurrexit. Our Lord Jesus has resurrected, as he said he would. During the season of Lent, we were struggling very much, perhaps in keeping our Lenten promises, our regulations, being kind and charitable, perhaps to those around us. Living out a globalization of charity is rather hard sometimes, but the season of Easter is to remind us that it is really ultimately Christ's power. It is not our own. Christ is the one who was raised from the dead, and he now gives us this same gift if we are just open to it. But what we see in the church, we see that there are no longer purple vestments, which is a sign of penance, but now there are vestments that are colors of gold and white. The altar may be decorated with beautiful flowers, and it may also be all signs of the water, of the baptismal water, and the promise that Christ washed away our sins in his own blood. But everything that we've received in the season of Lent, and in this celebration of Easter, we now bring it to our families. We bring it into our communities. so important for us to see in every aspect of our lives a mark of the Paschal mystery, that is, the life, death, and resurrection of Christ. In every failure, perhaps a sign of Christ's cross. In every weakness, a sign of Christ's cross. But in every victory, in every success in our lives, a sign of Christ's victory in the resurrection. And we can do this also in our families, when we take joy in seeing how people in our lives have achieved goals, or to be with people in compassion when they have themselves suffered in particular ways with illness or sickness. Whatever it is, my dear friends in Christ, it's ultimately a time for us to be joyful and to rejoice in the future glory that will come in being united with Christ for all eternity. Let us then commit ourselves to being a very joyful people in this season of Easter, and bringing this message of Christ's compassion and love to this world. God bless you, and happy Easter.